All right, everybody. Well, I think we have plenty. We're at 3 past the hour. We're going to go ahead and get things started. But first, before we do, we got a quick video. Everybody settle in. We're really excited about this today. I'm going to go ahead and press play, and then we'll get started here in just a minute.
Get done. There's work to be done. The kind of work that doesn't wait for daylight. The kind of work that keeps water flowing, streets safe, and cities alive. It's work that carries risk and enormous responsibility. I'm talking about strategic work, relentless work, essential work, the kind of work that's buried underground, work that's been done the same way for decades, too slow to change and too important to fail. That's the work that matters most. But you already knew that, because you're the ones leading it, day in and day out. You set the standard. You plan for the long term. You prevent the big disasters. You protect what must last. You don't just fix pipes. You protect neighborhoods. You keep communities moving forward, because there's a secret to getting this work done right, and you've carried it your whole career. Now, there's a better way to do it. A way to see ahead, act faster, and get more done, because the future doesn't wait, and neither do you. Get done.
All right, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Billy Gilmartin, CEO and co-founder here at Super AI. And we are so excited to have all of you. I think it's our best attended webinar ever. We have 125 people here. We couldn't be more excited. Today is all about releasing our new product, our new feature called Risk Rehab. Today, I am joined by two colleagues, Seth Nickinson, our Director of Product, and also Dave Barden, our VP of Sales. We're also joined today by two customers, Jim Cartafalsa of DELCORA Water, and also Danny Colvin of Sonoma Water. And we're super honored to have them with us today. We're super excited about releasing Risk Rehab. For those that are joining us for the first time, a little bit about Sewer AI. We are a software business purpose-built for wastewater professionals. We are deployed, our technology is deployed across North America. These are some of our customers here that we like to highlight, and we're honored again to have DELCORA and Sonoma Water with us today. So what are we going to do today? Today, we're going to do a live walkthrough of our new product, Risk Rehab. Seth's going to walk us through that. Dave's going to help lead a customer roundtable, and then we're going to have a live Q&A. And I want everyone to make sure that they stay here till the end, because we have a very special offer for this new product, and you're going to want to hear it. So you got to stick around to hear what the details of that offer are. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here today. Really excited for you guys to see this new product, which I believe is a game-changing product. And so before we get into that, I wanted to just share a story. And this is a story that I think all of us have some version of. And it's a story about technology and why technology is so incredible in our lives. And so who better to tell that story than my son, Liam? This is my son, Liam. Liam is 6 years old. Liam and I spend time with each other every single night before we go to bed. And usually we read stories. Usually we're, laying on the bed, looking at some book, looking at photos. But recently I've been cheating a little bit and using my phone, because young Liam has all these questions, and many of these questions, I don't even know the answers to some of these questions. And so recently I've been using ChatGPT as a crutch to answer my son's questions. And he just calls it Siri. So ChatGPT, Siri, he always says, "Dad, let's ask Siri." And so the other night we're laying in bed and he starts asking questions. And those questions start with sparkle dragons and mythical creatures. And, if the sparkle dragon really existed, what would it look like? Can we create a photo? And so we're kind of going back and forth here. And after just a few short moments, we go from sparkle dragons, and I don't even know how we get here, but we start talking about atoms and nuclear energy and splitting atoms. And it's just like, The kid is 6, and it's pretty incredible. And that's what technology, I think, can do for all of us. Incredible technology helps us elevate our consciousness and helps us become superhuman. And that's what I think Risk and Rehab will do for all of us in wastewater. It will help us elevate our consciousness and make us superhuman. So I'm super excited for Seth to show us Risk and Rehab today. A few housekeeping rules. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to ask questions. Please ask your questions in the chat. We'll make sure to get to those during the live Q&A session. Also, we don't want you guys to just hang out with us and hear from us. We want you guys to be building community. So please feel free to chat with other attendees. Reach out to somebody you recognize. Introduce yourself. We want to create community in these moments. At the end of the webinar, we're going to go ahead and send a post-webinar survey. We want to make sure that we're doing a good job and consistently making these better. So please respond to that survey. And just a reminder that this session is being recorded so that we could share it with all of you at the end and so that you could share it with some of your colleagues. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Seth, who's now going to talk us through what Risk and Rehab is all about.
Thanks, Billy. Some of you I've met, some of you I haven't. Really just personally proud to be here and grateful to my team. Some of them are on this call today for having built this product. I've been on this journey at 2AI 5 years now. And, we've done a lot of fundamentals that we knew we needed to do to create a great platform for you all to manage inspections. But this is something we've dreamed about for a few years now, getting to the place where we help you take action on all those assets you're storing with us and use the power of our data and our AI team to make that possible. I really think, having surveyed the field here, this product I'm about to show you is one of the easiest to use, most highly customizable, fast to set up products you can imagine that's going to give you a rapid overview of your system and help you really getting to doing both those maintenance and rehab activities immediately. And we really think it's going to change the game for a lot of people. So it's a pretty simple product, as I said, and we feel good about that.
Is it
There's
just
really
me, or is Seth's audio going out?
Just you, Billy.
Okay, sorry.
There's 4 big steps here. It's really an easy product to use, to get the data in, to analyze it, and to get those rehab recommendations. So I'm going to dive right in and show you how it works. Confirming you guys can see my screen now. So this is my personal thanks to Danny and Jim, both of whom I know pretty well and have been working with. We're actually using DELCORA's data here. So grateful to Jim for letting us do that. This is our product live in the browser right now. This is the DELCORA system in southeastern Pennsylvania. What you're getting right off the bat, some of you probably start to get the hint here, is this is a color-coded view of the risk, not only the inspections, in the DELCORA system. And I can zoom in closer and closer. The map tiles will reload. I can zoom down here toward the Delaware River, start to get a sense what's going on of the inspected stuff. Where's the risk in this system? What do I need to start to think about? At a glance, I can click on one of these assets. I get a real quick overview of what's going on with it, some data about the pipe, some scoring. We'll get into all this sooner. I'm going to go into detail about all these aspects of it, but it's that simple basically to get a system overview and get a sense of what's going on. So I want to step back for a minute. Some of you are already customers, some of you may not be. What does it take to get a risk map like this? So when you come to Pioneer, it's boom, here's what I'm looking at. It's really only 2 things you have to do. One of them is you have to get inspection data in our system. So most of you who've used the product before know how to do that. You come over to the Pioneer dashboard, you click an upload button, and you load in MDB and videos, or you use our truck software, which many of you are using, to sync data to our cloud. The only other thing you have to do is get a GIS map in our system. You can do that yourself, or we can help you do that. We need that pipe map. This is our main map interface that we track inspections on. All you got to do is click the layer tab. You can either import a shapefile, or you can import from ArcGIS. If you use AGOL or Enterprise, you sign into your Esri account and you pull in your pipe layer. Once we have that mainline layer and some inspection data, even 50 inspections, this risk system is going to run automatically. Billy will talk at the end about turning it on for you all. But that map plus those inspections makes this magic possible. It will automatically load your pipe layer and zoom to bounds. That's what this little button is. But if you're not zoomed to bounds, you can, recenter it manually. So now what I want to talk about is, oh, there we go. Just to point out some basic things, there's a legend here if you want to know what you're looking at. You can change the map style, which most of us are used to. If you want to look at the terrain or you want to look at your classic street view, all that's available here. I'm not going to get into all the details today. So I'm going to talk a little bit over the next little few moments about the use cases for this, right? How can we really make this hone in on the data you feel you need to see to get your work done? So I want to show a different use case. This, as we said, is the high-risk stuff Jim's team has recently inspected. But I actually can swap over to uninspected assets. I want to point this out. Let's say your team is thinking about, what should I CCTV next, right? What do I need to keep an eye on? I can swap to uninspected assets, give it a moment to load, and if you were paying attention, it looks like he's inspected most of this stuff down by the river, but a few blocks in, not all this has been inspected. Nonetheless, we're using GIS attributes and consequence of failure factors, like how close is it to the water, how close is it to school, to give you an uninspected asset priority. So you could go ahead and make a job and say, you know what? All these lines along this street that seem to have a sort of a prospective risk that's pretty high, and you see our recommended action here, inspect soon in the next 9 to 18 months. So you can go ahead and figure out where your maintenance activities and prevention activities need to go happen. But let's jump back to the main use case most of you are going to have, which is, how do I find the stuff that I've got to deal with right now? Let's get down to the bread and butter of that. So I'm just going to move that pull out of the way. We've got filters over here. If I'm Jim, I can jump down to, hey, I only want to see the stuff inspected in the last year. Let that finish. Now we're starting to really get into some highlights. Here's the stuff from the last year that's high risk. In fact, I can come down here and I can even turn off the low risk stuff so that I'm only looking at the reds and the oranges, right? Now I'm really getting a picture. Where are my priority assets that I need to deal with? Again, I can zoom back in, click on one of these assets. So let's talk about this for a minute. You've got the last inspection date. This one was inspected 8 weeks ago, it looks like. This takes you, if I click it in another tab, right to the Pioneer Inspection Review page. Again, those of you who are already customers of ours are very familiar with this. Video playback, observations. I can jump to this tap factory defective by clicking the button. I can see the ratings, all the photographs. This is a product we've had in the market for years. But this risk map takes you right to that view. It also gives you recommendations about what to do. I want to point out a few more things that you're looking at here. Not only do you have some basics on the asset, you've got some description of the ratings. One I want to call your attention to is this Pioneer structural benchmark. This is a pretty unique thing we're doing where this is a 36-inch brick pipe. We are benchmarking this pipe against every other piece of 36-inch brick we have in our system. Now, we may not have that much large diameter brick like that, but if you're looking at 12-inch VCP, we've got a ton of it. In all those cases, we're saying, is the structural rating on this pipe better or worse than what we would expect for a pipe like that? In this case, it's 0.56, so that's right around the median. It's a 0 to 100 scale. So it's pretty much in the middle, and as you can see, this only has a grade 2 structural defect. Most of its issues are probably going to be O&M, it looks like, and as well as some of its location. So this is the map view that gives you a real fast overview of your system. Easy to set up, easy to look at, really fast system overview. Billy, I don't know if you want to say anything else about getting this quick system perspective.
No, I think that you're doing a great job here, Seth. The most important thing for utility asset owners is really to be focusing their attention on the assets that need the most attention and to come up with a plan about how to maintain those assets, extend the useful life of those assets, repair those assets. So actually what I'm really interested in you showing now is how we help people now understand which assets they should focus on and how they can maintain those assets.
Got you. Will do. So yeah, map gives you a nice big picture. We all love GIS for that, right? What I want to show is you can switch over to this table view here, view assets on a table. For those of you who are more detailed people used to being in Excel, it's going to maintain all my filters. So if you remember, we filtered the stuff from the last year, but I could add a bunch of, oh, and the high risk stuff, but I got a bunch more filters for only certain materials, certain age pipes. I'm going to switch over to the table view. Give it a moment to load. We're going to get, so out of all of 5,500 of Jim's assets we've got in the system, this filtered view is 1,000 things that have been inspected in the last year at a high risk, relatively high risk. And you've got a table view of them, right? Everything we're evaluating about that asset, a total risk score, both an LOF and a COF score, and I'll get into those in a moment. That link to the last inspection, that structural benchmark, all the GIS attributes, all the scorings, how near it is to hospitals, water bodies, public schools, all that kind of stuff is here in the table. If you want to do your own analysis, you can pull this data down to a CSV or a geodatabase and do your own analysis on it. So how did we get to this risk score? It's what we call a risk recipe, or you might traditionally call a formula. Again, a real unique power, I think, of our system is you can change your risk formula and instantaneously with the push of a button, change the ratings, but then flip back to your other formula. So if you want to make a formula that overweights on age or focuses on certain types of pipes in a certain neighborhood by considering different risk factors, you can do that. Won't spend too much time on this today, but this panel is our risk recipe panel. It allows you to manipulate the LOF, likelihood of failure, and the consequence of failure. These are the factors right now that are pre-programmed in, again, out of the box and available to you. So the LOF, as you would expect, leads with the NASCO likelihood of failure if you've done a recent inspection. But if it hasn't, it can take all these other factors, not the benchmark, because that needs a rating too, but the age, the diameter, the depth, the length, the material into account. We've got easy to use sliders where you can set what feels risky to you. So maybe your system is really old and you only think things over 150 years are a level 5, or maybe your system's really new and you want to change these thresholds. You just drag these sliders for age or diameter. When you, same thing on consequence, right? How close can it be to a school without it being high risk, right? We said 0 to 50 feet is high risk, but maybe you want to have a larger threshold than that. And so you drag this to 100. Click save a new recipe. You can basically give yourself a new recipe, save it. You can always recall those once you do that. So you can be manipulating how you calculate risk, have different formulas you use for different projects. Really easy to use. Give you that customizability that when we were prepping this product, I really heard from everyone. Hey, I used to do it this way, or I had an engineer who did it this way, but I can't recreate their analysis. This recipe is the ability to recreate that analysis, just like a cooking recipe is. You can do it the same way over and over again. So great. Let's get into really looking at what do I do about these assets? So we've got these high risk assets calculated out this way. I'm going to hone in even more. Let's go to stuff where the Sewer AI Rehab engine has recommended a trenchless point repair. So I'm going to narrow this down even more. Give it a moment. That's 65 assets now, right? So let's say you're a utility or even an engineer or a contractor helping utility, trying to prioritize, right? You want to do a lining job. You want to do some heavy cleaning. In this case, let's say I'm looking for point repairs that I can go out and do either in-house or contract them out. So now I've got this table, and if I swap back to the map, I'd have the same 65 assets that we're suggesting are candidates for point repairs. One thing you might notice quickly, and I'm going to get into this, is there's two columns here. We started this product looking at best practices in the field, and we built a decision tree or a decision logic model or decision support, some people call it. And this, I'm going to click on this. It's going to be pretty familiar to many of you, right? So I'm going to click on this asset. You see this side panel flew out, how we arrived at this recommendation. And basically, we're running each asset, its GIS attributes, its location, all the inspections data we have about it through a series of decision trees. SAGs, routes, obstructions, is it a lining candidate? In this case, the only one that really triggered anything was this structural defect decision tree. That basically it needs some repairs, but it's obviously not at risk of imminent collapse. And so we based on all these criteria, which you could track down, we recommend a trenchless point repair. I can click this button and actually get that kind of decision tree flow chart that some of you might be used to, where it walks you through the yes/no logic. It's the same as the text on the prior view, but it tells you how we got there. These are customizable. We have an engine behind it that allows us to build these. So this is where we started. We worked with engineers, we worked with trenchless rehab experts, we worked with our own team. We built that decision model that most of us are used to. It works, it's great. I will say we wouldn't be living up to our name and why I joined this company, who we are, if we didn't bring the power of our AI team, all of our data, our machine learning to this problem. And that's what we've been doing over the last couple months. The same team that brought you AutoCode and has run millions of linear feet of pipe over the last 6 years has brought an AI lens that Billy was talking about with Liam to this product. And I really do believe this is going to revolutionize how we do business here, how we get things to engineers for their review, how we plan projects, how we do capital planning, all that stuff. So this next column is the AI recommendations. I'm going to click this same pipe here, GM 185. You see it's got a CIPP point repair and then recommends some cleaning and an inspection to follow it. So let's look at this. Take a pause here, like this hopefully starts to look like a magic moment, right? So all that logic, and I've been talking to engineers for months, as I said, to you all, that we do in our heads. What's going on in this pipe? What exactly is happening at 124 feet here? What's the diameter of material? How old is this thing? The AI engine is taking all of that into account, and it's producing an explanation, not just a logic tree, of how it got to the conclusion. So this is a VCP pipe that has two severe closely spaced defects. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'll scroll slowly. You get two actions it's summarizing here. One, you've got to make this trenchless point repair around 150 feet, and then you've got to get a full cleaning to get the roots and the obstructions out. The AI engine is surfacing the photos from the inspection at those exact points, summarizing it. So hopefully your brains are already clicking. We can start to put this into a report or a document or a slideshow you might need to give to city council or city manager. It explains exactly what's going on with them. It knows that this pipe seems, again, if Jim's GIS data is right, this is a deep pipe. That's a major engineering constraint, right? Open cut excavation would be crazy here, could be done. But so we're going to want to try and do a trenchless point repair. It's got to happen within 3 months. The AI actually gives us its confidence level. For those of you who have some familiarity with AI, it's basically always running confidences, right? It's estimating how sure is it of something. So it's going to tell us that. And it's going to give us engineering considerations and a cost estimate. Right now, you'll see these cost ranges are pretty broad. It does have some regional knowledge, but definitely a next project for me and my team is to pull in all the cost data we've accumulated from bid tabs all around the country and start to refine this and make it even better. So again, we could eventually output a project for this. It gives you all this. At the end, it even suggests follow-up questions, right? This is actually an interactive AI chat. We have two LLMs running on top of each other here. One of them is checking the other one. So it gives you some follow-up questions you might want to ask, or you can type in your own question. So let's say, this is a deep trenchless repair. Hopefully you guys can see my typing in the bottom right there.
We can.
Can you give me an engineering spec for this work? Just give it a moment. The AI is thinking. Hopefully you're
While
all
this is loading, the thing I think I want everyone to relate to is that this is your strategic thought partner. So oftentimes you're in deep thought, thinking about what am I going to do about this asset? When should I put this out for repair? Like these sort of questions. And you can be going back and forth here with the LLM as a strategic thought partner, thinking through these challenges and developing a stronger opinion. And as you can see right now, it's putting forth what is a typical product specification you might see in a contract document. Pretty amazing.
But again, you can also, as Billy said, ask it. You could debate with it. Do I really need to do this one? I wouldn't debate the point repair, but you can ask it, right? Do I have an alternative? Could I, it will give you, again, it admits itself in multiple places. You've got to get this signed by your PE. This does not replace the advice of a professional engineer. We're always going to say that. But this is guiding you to where you can begin to take action. Let's just finish its thought. I think you all get the point. It's really open for inquiry, conversation, refining the recommendations, and figure out exactly what's going to be best. This was a very lengthy question. I didn't ask it a simple one.
You basically asked it to write a contract.
Right. And to that point, you can ask it, it mentioned that this is
read out the question you're typing here.
Are there contractors in our area qualified to do this deep point repair? Now, I'm sure Jim knows who his go-to people are. That's fine. But again, the AI has the ability to answer those kind of questions and make those kind of linkages, especially let's say there's some unique work, right? So it's going to give us trenchless rehab contractors who routinely work in southeastern Pennsylvania, who meet the specifications that it pointed out. Some of these names I'm sure are familiar to some of you on this call.
Calling out company names, telephone numbers, and some relevant work experience recently completed by these firms. This is just incredible.
So hopefully what I'm showing you guys is blowing some minds right now, right? It's a combination of traditional way of doing this work. We're doing it incredibly expediently, incredibly quickly, but also taking that, giving you all the power. Look, we know many of you need to double check things. We're giving you all this data at your fingertips to do your own analysis, but we're also using that repository of data Sewer AI has and our AI to make your life that much easier. I just want to point out this is only going to get better as AI models do. We're feeding more data. We're engineering the prompt. As I mentioned, in particular, we're going to work quite a bit on the cost estimates and some of that engineering stuff. And again, I alluded to it, but I hope you all are imagining a next product we're going to build is once you have a set of lines you want to take action on, being able to use the AI to basically build a project or build a report. Hey, summarize all these into 5 pages with a table and some photos so I can go ask for budget about this. That's very easy for an AI to do once it has the underlying data. So last point I'll make, and I'm going to wrap up. What do I do about all this, right? Okay, I've gone through these. I've reviewed the AI recs in these videos, and I actually want to line this one or do point repair on this one and this one and this one, right? We've got this tagging function here. You can tag these assets. We've made some prefab groups, capital planning, cleaning, inspection, lining, point repair. But you can also write your own tags like Q3 job, you can tag those assets for point repair, and then you'll be able to come back and filter for those later, find those point repairs, take that set, export it, put it in a CSV, put it in a geodatabase. We will be working on integrations of this directly to people's work order software. That's all coming. There's a long feature list of things we want to add to this product to make it work for all of you every day, day in and day out. I also want you to hear that as much as we love the cool stuff like the AI, we're not going to forget the basics. We're working right now on adding more consequence of failure factors. People have asked us, hey, I think about is it under a railroad a lot? We're working on bringing in that map layer, national map layer of railroad. So Sewer AI is always going to keep its eye on the basics that you need every single day, while pushing the envelope here. I hope you all are as excited about this as I am and the team is. We really have appreciated the early adopter customers. You're going to hear from a few of them, and we're really excited to get it out to hundreds of more people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Seth, for showing this today. Again, this is about helping people make confident business decisions about what to fix, how to fix it, and when to do it much faster than we typically are today. So with that, we're going to now pivot over to Dave and our two guests, Jim Cartafalsa and Danny Colvin, so that we can run a customer roundtable here. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Dave now for
Thank
our
you,
customer
Billy.
roundtable. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Billy. And it's great to see some familiar names out in the audience. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time. As Billy mentioned, I've got Jim Cartafalsa from DELCORA and Danny Colvin from Sonoma joining me. And we're going to ask them some questions about their experience with Sewer AI and this Risk and Rehab product. So, Danny, why don't we start with you? I'm going to hit you with a real tough question to start. Danny, what is your favorite wine varietal?
Well, I like beer. So
Okay, swing and a miss. Sonoma
yeah,
guys
so I know I'm
out
from
in
Sonoma
beer.
County, but we have great beer here too.
Okay, well, I'm more of a wine guy, but that's okay. I think we'll still get along. So,
Perfect.
hey, first real question for you. Why did you partner with Sewer AI and what challenges were you trying to solve?
Yeah, so we originally found Sewer AI a number of years ago, and it actually started with manhole inspections. We had a need to inspect all of our manholes in our entire system. So we looked at several different options. We, got some bids from several different companies that were willing to come out and do it for us, but we like to be able to do stuff internally. Part of that process was looking at what kind of equipment could allow us to inspect everything in a short time frame. And the end result was we landed on Sewer AI. We put together our own system where we were able to take basically GoPro footage, get it uploaded to Sewer AI, and then you guys have a great AutoCode system that allows our crews to inspect 35 plus manholes a day. So we were able to knock our whole system out actually in under a year. So that was the start here, and we've kind of continued on from there. Once we got manhole inspections going, we said, hey, PACP is included. So we took our PACP system and actually transferred it over to Sewer AI. The cloud, your just standard cloud service has been great, and it allows us to have unlimited users for viewing, which allows us to share videos with whoever we need to share with. So
Very cool. Very cool. And you already stole the thunder of my follow-up question, which how that's evolved. So you started with manholes, now you're into PACP, and now testing risk and rehab, which we'll get to in a second. But I want to turn it over to Jim now. So Jim, before I give you the same question, another important one for you, being from, Pennsylvania area, are you an Eagles or Steelers fan?
Eagles, definitely. We're only about 5 miles outside of the city.
Yeah, well, I'm a Niners fan. This relationship has been a bit one-sided in your favor over the past few years, so hopefully we'll get a little bit better time on the West Coast. But Jim, same question. Why did you and DELCORA choose to partner with Sewer AI, and what challenges were you trying to solve out east?
So myself, I was a former TV operator, and one of the things that always, struck my interest was how people see things differently. So different operators, different opinions. When Store AI was presented to me as a computer-based PACP coding effort, I thought that was really interesting because sometimes we do have issues where I may see something and Dan, who if he was an operator, saw something different. So the streamlined ability to code and get the data that was needed in a consistent way was really important. Not to mention your out-of-the-box cloud platform with the unlimited storage was huge. I mean, storage can go crazy in this world with cloud systems. And most importantly was you guys allowed us to take our data and show us what your product could do. Not many people were willing to do that. So we found that to be important. Once we got into the product, we realized how beneficial it could be to DELCORA, to our engineers, to our ratepayers, and the different things we can do with it. traditionally our system is older, so we needed to find better ways to pinpoint rehab and repair and problems and address them. NASCO does tell you the structural, integrity of a pipe, but it doesn't give you the entire picture. So being able to use AI to get that data and streamline it for us is really important.
Very cool. That's a great answer. So Jim, let's stick with you. Fast forward to now where, you've done what you just explained with Sewer AI in order to kind of get better quality data into your system. And now you're trying to leverage that data using the new Risk and Rehab tool. Before we get to that use, just tell me a little bit about how you used to do Risk and Rehab and what are the things you're trying to solve for and improve upon by leveraging this solution?
So prior to anything sewer AI related, we basically just took our NASCO scores and kind of, pushed pipes off to, capital repairs down the road, just based on the structural and O&M ratings of the pipes. Now, while utilizing the Risk and Rehab as we have over the past couple months, we're actually able to, factor in the area, the location, the consequence of failure. What happens if this pipe fails and who does it impact? Does it impact the environment? Does it impact the community? Does it impact just a small subset of the community? So to be able to do that has been great because we're working with infrastructure that's underground that you don't get to look at every day. So being able to take this data and really pinpoint using the consequence of failure model and things like that has changed the way we look at things just outside of a structural integrity of a pipe.
Very cool. Very cool. A couple more follow-ups for you. So, for those of folks in the audience who might not have an immediate repair project on hand, you and I were kind of talking about ways that someone could actually get value out of the product today. You want to talk a little bit about how, the folks in the audience, if you don't have a project planned and analysis needed, how you can use some of the data in Risk and Rehab in your everyday work right away?
Yeah, just kind of like what Seth went through, just the preventive maintenance functions of when to, re-inspect the line, how frequently, what type of cleaning. Is it just a general clean? Is it a heavy duty clean? Do you need root cutting, grease removal? And then how do you prioritize those? Which prior to having this or sewer AI in general, it was just kind of on a time basis. Hey, we haven't been here in X amount of time. We need to go back and review this area, clean it, TV it. Now we can pinpoint based on the data we're getting back exactly where we need to go, how frequently we need to be there, and what kind of equipment's involved.
Very cool. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, that's something we've been hearing a lot. In the absence of having a big rehab project, having an always on, always updated view into the risk of your system actually allows you to make the best decisions on a day-to-day basis. So I appreciate that. And then final question for you, Jim. How do you see the use of this Risk and Rehab AI engine evolving over time?
Definitely helps us plan capital projects. We have 180 miles of pipe. How do we decide which pipe needs to get repaired, when, and how? Definitely for rehab and rehabilitation that we do in-house. So if we find something, most of the stuff that we find in an immediate need, we take care of it right away. But is there stuff that we can wait maybe 6 months or 12 months so we're not tying up crews constantly doing repair work? And then the biggest thing for me has always been meshing the score of the pipe with the consequence of failure. Once I saw this product, we could have a pipe that, if it were to break, while would be a problem, may not be a major problem, may not impact the Delaware River, which is right by us, or a creek or stream that feeds the Delaware River, or schools that we have in the area, or hospitals. We oversee different portions of a large county. So to be able to prioritize that based on, exactly what we're looking at and what the possible consequences are allows us to make better educated decisions and allocate our resources properly.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that answer because it also highlights the importance of doing this work well, right? Our communities depend on it. And kudos for you for pushing the envelope with technology to optimize your system. All right, Danny, we're going to go over the same questions with you. So how were you previously doing Risk and Rehab prior to Sewer AI? Oh, you're on mute, Danny.
See, we even had practice session. I still got my mute button locked. Yeah, so previously we were really just taking our scores and our mandate was, hey, fix any grade 4 or 5 defect. We really weren't taking into consideration the consequence of failure. And we were finding that just wasn't efficient because we had an initial drive, video the entire system. It took us a number of years to do it, but then we end up with a huge list of all of these repairs we need to make. So this tool here has really helped us to put some reasoning behind the priorities we're going to choose to make the repair. Beforehand, it was really just what we felt was the worst ones and go out and fix those.
Got it. So that helps you with prioritization. Very cool. And what are the ways that you see your use of the Risk and Rehab tool evolving, and kind of what are you most excited about in terms of using this tool moving forward for the future?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've kind of been missing a little bit was taking our PACP data and getting that into our capital improvement projects. Typically, our capital improvement projects have been capacity driven, and now we're able to overlay that with our basically all of our risk assessment of the pipes, and we can say, okay, these are scheduled to be replaced due to capacity needs. Well, let's overlay that with repairs, and then we can maybe not make some of those repairs because we know they're going to be fixed in the future for capacity reasons. And then we can bump up other projects that should be done sooner for maintenance and structural issues. So I'm really hoping that this continues to evolve. You guys have been changing this thing almost daily. The improvements have been just great.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Danny. All right, that's all the questions that we had. Jim and Danny, thank you guys so much for your time, and we're really looking forward to continue working with you, driving good results, and making our products better so you can continue being good stewards of your communities. Thanks, gents.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Thanks.
All right, very good. I think we have a few minutes here now for some live questions. And so maybe Michaela or Dave, you can help us understand which questions have been posed. Maybe we can answer some of those questions
I think
live.
we had one slide before that, Billy. I think we're going to go over the offer first, and then we'll go do Q&A, but I will pull up the Q&A in the meantime.
Okay. So the offer, let's talk about the offer. Anybody who signs up with us between now and September is going to get Risk and Rehab for free for the first year of their engagement with us. And so for all of you out there that are not yet customers, please pick up the phone. Let's get signed up here by the end of September. And if you do, you're going to get Risk and Rehab for free here for the first year. For all of the existing customers that we have, please just pick up the phone, send out an email to our team. Our customer enablement team will make sure that we get your map integrated, and you could start leveraging Risk and Rehab right away. No cost, no additional cost to you. So our main priority right now is to make sure we get this technology in the hands of every possible user out there, and we're doing it in such a way that it's not cost prohibitive at all. So we want to make sure, yes, all of you existing customers get access to it. Simply just get your maps loaded into Pioneer and we'll get it going. And then for those new customers, let's get you signed up. All right. So with respect to the Q&A, Dave, what questions are out there that we can pose?
Yeah, I see you've answered 3 of them, Billy. I'm going to start with the open ones first.
Okay.
So from Chad, we have, can you please explain the cost tables and how often they're updated so that the user is comfortable with the cost projections for the given repair plans?
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Chad. Yeah, I alluded to that. That's the cost was sort of the most newly added feature. So I'll be transparent that that's something we're working hard to update. We have a lot of the LLM is scraping all kinds of data available about prevailing costs, and we're embarking on a concerted effort, as I mentioned, to actually get as many bid tabulations as we can. A lot of those are publicly available. That allows us to line item by line item improve those costs. Now, obviously, building a project, thinking about mobilizations, whether it's a one-off or you're doing a whole area there, that's why there's so much variance in the cost. So the short answer is we're constantly feeding it data. It's not yet super mature on sort of regional differences, which we know exist. And we're going to keep feeding it data and keep learning. And then we would love to work with some of you to validate those costs as well and embark on an effort to do that ground truthing.
I'll just maybe add some more detail. There's lots of historical cost data out there that's available that we're getting ourselves access to. It's all publicly available. An example of that here in the state of California is the California Department of Transportation has historical cost data for all sorts of means and methods of construction. And that's really specific to the state of California, but they have many of those across the country. And then also, I'll just say that there's some opportunity for us in a partner, technology partner that we have who's done a lot to integrate with a lot of cost data through APIs and things like that with various agencies around the country. And so the cost data we hope that we're providing and the estimates that we provide are based in real cost data. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, next question from Alexander. Are there credits or additional costs for using the LLM chat feature?
No.
No.
Sweet, that was nice and easy. From Anonymous, have you conducted the rehab risk analysis on recommendations for various cities? And if so, what percentage of the results closely align with the original decisions?
Great question. So this is a relatively new product for us. We've got a couple dozen utilities or clients, mostly utilities, few engineering firms, using the product right now, Danny and Jim among them. We are asking our users, of course, to help validate these choices. So another person had asked and answered in chat. I didn't show it, but there is a thumbs up, thumbs down on the AI chat. You can also comment back to us, this is a great recommendation. This is bogus. I'm going to only do a partial lining here. That's always getting feedback into the system. We also have professional engineers working in-house with us right now on a systematic process of reviewing recommendations and adjusting them, giving us feedback so we can improve both the decision tree and the AI model. In terms of specific clients of ours, that's what we're working. In fact, Jim and Danny will tell you I've asked for some of their work order data so we can validate this against past actions. But really, it's going to be on a going forward basis, right? This product is just launched. We have these recommendations. Then it's going to be proving out with them and you all, okay, which pipes did Danny, he just alluded to this, which pipes did he choose to go proactively repair and feeding that data back in? So that process is really just beginning. We have clients all around the country, as Billy showed at the beginning. And that's what this collaboration is ultimately all about to drive this product. So we are verifying it on a day-to-day basis. It's learning, it's being supported by our own in-house engineers, but we do want to work with our clients to make sure it works for different people's decisions.
Great. Another question from Ryan. Do you need inspection videos to map the pipeline, or can you simply upload GIS KMZ files?
So there was that moment in the demo where I swapped to just uninspected assets, right? So if you only have GIS attributes, and we obviously have things like nearness to schools and hospitals, we can give you a risk score, but it's not going to include the most recent assessment, I think, if that's the question. Now, you don't need a video for everything. We can actually use the data. If you have the observations, conditions, and ratings, that can be used also in the absence of an actual video file to run the analysis. But it works best if you give us the whole shebang, right? And again, we could talk separately. We have ways in Pioneer to import your historical data, especially if you're a utility. It isn't only the stuff you capture from the day you start working with us. We can bring in your historical data so that record of inspections for the last few years is also connected to the risk tool.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, in fact, if this was something you wanted to adopt, but you would want to make sure all of your historical data would be imported into Pioneer, we have a whole team that's set up that can actually help facilitate that process. And we've done that many, many times with utilities across the country where we have a whole support staff that helps and aids the utility in getting all their historical data into Pioneer.
Great. All right, let me look in the chat. I see we have a few questions in there as well. So from Steve, is the AI chat your own data set or is it open to the web?
The AI has access to our data. It is an LLM. We all know some of the leading players here. I mentioned earlier, we have actually two LLMs running. One of them is checking the other. So we did not build our own large language model. Right now, it is not actually open to the web though. So it's using the model as trained. It's not if you ask it questions, it's not sending them out to the open web.
Great. Thank you. We have a question from Randy about Canadian data.
We have a handful of wonderful Canadian customers. We have not specifically validated this tool against Canadian rehab methods or cost data. It's the kind of project we're happy to embark on with the right partner.
Not all that different than.
No, I wouldn't expect, but the question was asked.
I do think that they talk in meters. I think that might be the main difference. Yeah.
And our system works in meters, generally speaking. You know, the overall year can swap to meters, but we haven't run the risk specifically in that way.
Cool. And then a follow-up from Randy. Can we help add our own data based on our available information?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, if you have historical work order, right? Once your data's in, if you've got pipes and their IDs and you want to give us work order history on those pipes, if you have cost tables that you use to estimate the cost of various rehab, we would love to pull that into the system. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
We have time for maybe one more, Dave.
Okay. We're from Tiffany. Were costs, and then in parentheses, weighing cost of the rehab action within the decision tree, are we able to input costs for in-house repair types?
Great questions, Tiffany. Thank you. So the decision tree path does take into account some cost information. You know, for instance, if I'm going to line X amount of a pipe, what is the relative cost of that to a replacement, and what is the threshold at which that becomes worth it? So yes, there's some cost consideration. Honestly, our feeling is that some of that is harder to do in a decision tree method than in a AI method, because there's a lot of considerations but some of that basic stuff that many of us are used to seeing in other decision logic tools, right? How many feet of lining do I have to do? How many feet of point repair versus doing a full lining? That is in there. And we would be happy to take your own in-house cost data. Right now, while the decision trees can be customized, we don't have a self-service DIY structure on the front end for you to input your cost information. But that's a great feature request. It's something we've chatted about, and I'd love to keep talking about it.
Fantastic. I'm going to hand it back over to Billy for a follow-up, but thank you all for your questions. I know I didn't answer all of them, but we will absolutely get to that. So we will follow up with you after if you have a question I didn't get to, but I'll hand it back to Billy. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Please pose your questions in the chat. We'll take note of them, and then we'll make sure to follow up with you guys all in writing. I just want to say thanks for everybody to take the time today. We've been here for about an hour. I want to also say special thanks to Jim and Danny for participating in today's webinar. We're super excited about this product, you guys. We really think it's a game changer for all of you wastewater professionals out there that are trying to take your jobs very seriously, that are trying to extend the useful life of all of your assets underground. And so please take the opportunity to sign up with us if you haven't already. And for those that already have, please, let's get you guys set up with Risk and Rehab and take your utility to the next level. Just a quick reminder here that actually we have a Sewer AI University session next week on August 20th, where we'll be taking a deep dive, step-by-step training on Risk and Rehab. So for all those existing customers out there today that want to get Risk and Rehab up and running, a great opportunity to sit in on a session and figure out how to do that is actually going to be August 20th during our next Sewer AI University. With that, I also want to say thank you to Michaela for setting up this webinar. Everybody, have a wonderful week. Oh, Randy Russell's got a raised hand. I'm not sure if we can take live audio questions, can we? No?
Why don't we follow up with Randy offline in the interest of time?
That sounds good.
So real quick, Michaela sent out a 2-minute survey. We'd love to hear from you to make sure that, the continued webinars and content we put out is valuable to you all. So we'd love to hear your voice. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have an awesome day. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.